There we go. Can you see that now?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Great. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for the invitation to present this morning. It may seem a bit strange talking acoustics to a very large energy portfolio of people, but as was mentioned at the start of this seminar, the webinar, there are some key attributes of some of the learning we developed through the acoustics and robust details, and the potential application for what would happen if we could improve the as-built performance for thermal and energy during construction, and learning from some of the applications that we undertook for the development of robust details for acoustics. So we're based at the Institute for Sustainable Construction, Edinburgh Napier, and we undertake a lot of work in relation to energy performance of buildings, off-site construction, timber construction, acoustics, occupant evaluation, and many other attributes. But today we'll focus specifically on the developments of robust details and what happened. So as an overview of the presentation today, we're going to discuss how did the RD approach work from the start, what were then some of the key ingredients of that system, how it was entered into and through with government, how did the design book and handbook develop, what was that sort of registration and monitoring, almost a circular pathway of knowledge that we needed to build up. We'll show an example of one of the details and build information, although many of these examples are freely accessible through the Robust Details website, where the Robust Details Design Handbook is free to access. A bit about the journey, because I think it's important to explain some of the issues. And listening to the earlier talks by Ross and Jelle and the discussions of the key issues at the start that the industry was looking at for thermal and fabric performance, many of those issues are almost synergetic, and you could repeat them identical to the issues discussed in 2001 and 2002 with regards, was the industry ready or not, etc. What was the skills platform like? What was the knowledge that was out there? So we'll discuss that as well. And then a touch on the traffic light system, which is used for inspection and monitoring. And I think overall it's how could this potentially be applied, or elements of it, for maybe for a future thermal approach. So what was the catalyst for change? Well, before 2001, one of the highest issues for complaints that the house building sector had was for noise and sound insulation. And in a study that was undertaken by the Building Research Establishment, which gathered a series of data from various sites, they found that the compliance rates or pass rates for sound insulation for separating walls, these are walls which separate attached houses or are built in apartments, was only about 60%. So that was a 40% fail rate. And for separating floors for apartments, there was a 40% pass rate up to 60% fail rate. So it was unsurprising that there were as many noise complaints, even though some people have higher expectations about build and sound insulation. Nevertheless, there was a real issue. And so with these high levels of noise complaints, the lack of a standardized process, and many new changes were happening in the sector in terms of build, types of materials, it led to some significant issues. So how did the RD approach start? Well, the government wanted to improve sound insulation standards and performance. They wanted site sound insulation testing to be mandatory and to improve and check workmanship and the build stages. And they wanted to track and see the influence of these new regulations and monitor how industry was doing. The house building industry was keen to improve its performance in terms of sound insulation. It recognized there were issues, but it also wanted all of the material industries to be fairly treated. In other words, they wanted no materials industry to be unfairly treated, whether you be steel frame, timber frame, concrete, or blockwork. And their aim really was to standardize approach across the industry and ultimately raise knowledge and the skills for sound insulation construction. But they were also concerned there were not enough site testers for sound insulation testing. They wanted to avoid large percentages of their housing stock requiring compulsory sound testing and reduce that proportion of testing to something that was more manageable, more like a sample rate. But they also preferred to build better and de-risk. So could they design and build better than the minimum regulations? And therefore they would probably need a handbook that could also not just support generic constructions for masonry, timber, steel, and generic references and specifications, but also something that could encourage innovation. If someone developed new acoustic products in every shape or form, no matter the sector, there needed to be a route that these products and systems come through, because the government guidance generally didn't change really till every 10 years. So could an approach be developed which could allow that, where we could attract and encourage innovation and provide a handbook and outreach? Ourselves at Edinburgh Napier University were awarded the contract, and part of the reason for that was we had the UK's largest design database for site, sound insulation in real buildings, those testing, and the knowledge of some of the best performing walls and floors. We had the knowledge at the time of the sort of robustness that was going to be required and the changes needed to design and build via future sample testing. And also, if we were going to launch into the industry, unlike just dealing with one or two projects, as soon as you specify something across the industry, given that there may be over 130,000 new attached houses and apartments built in the United Kingdom annually, once you let that design out of the bag and publish it, you have to make sure it's watertight, you can track it, you can code it, whether it be generic or innovative. So across all three strands, as one person from the industry put it, if this could be delivered, it would be a win-win-win on all fronts. However, getting started was no easy task. So the house builders really were forced to ask, is there a better way? We ensure we build correctly from the start. If we build better than the regulations and repeatedly meet the targets, do we need as much testing? If we have a target aim of robust standard details, could that equal improved performance, workmanship, and repeatability on each site, and very importantly, reproducibility of workmanship and improved performance on different sites? And so the industry asked government, can we try a robust detail approach in 2002? And the government gave the industry 12 months to provide data on such a route, if it was possible. So at inception, the government had given the industry 1 year. Isn't a huge amount of time when you consider it. So the industry rallied together and they brought together about £1 million of R&D investment. 5 working groups were formed. We had 119 committee members to look after, representing all the house building supply and product supply chains. We managed and designed the first set of details, and each construction type had to be tested 30 times. So that meant we could only have a maximum of 8 per site to avoid anyone trying to fix the results. And we had only 9 months to complete the project, because it took 1.5 months for us to be set up to be the managers of the project, to win the tender, and then we needed the last month and a bit to actually write up and design the full handbook when we had all the test evidence in. But we had multi-stakeholder engagement, fantastic support from industry. The warranty and insurance providers were very supportive, building control authorities, private building control and government, and a specific mention to the National House Building Council, who put a huge effort in to help us and track, particularly on the regulatory steering group. So these were the 5 steering groups that we set up. We had a main steering group, a regulatory group, steel, timber, and a blockwork concrete group representing the core constructions. So our deadline, we needed a deadline because if we're going to build and test these, we needed everything set in place by month 3 so that the sites that were either currently live or going to be built and come live could actually be changed in time. So by month 3, all trial sites had to be identified, which the industry was going to supply. A very important note, by the way, is no industry company or no house builder knew where the other same system was being built. That database was kept offline, was channeled through different means such that no house builder knew which other house builder was building the same system to avoid any collusion in how it was built. We could instruct from Napier all changes required to the acoustic build process, which we're very grateful to the sector for allowing us to do that. The industry gave us 72 live construction sites spread across the UK, as shown here. 1,400 new homes were built during that period, which incorporated our amended designs or new designs, and we subcontracted to 15 acoustic companies to go out and test these sites and sample them. In some cases, we actually double visited sites without consultants knowing that they were the second consultant or acoustic tester on that site, just so we could check and monitor the repeatability and reproducibility of the testing which was going on. And we needed and decided that we'd have a minimum of 3 different test companies spread over those 30 tests. The steel sites are shown in blue, timber is shown on the map in yellow, and block, which was the predominant construction, particularly in England at the time and Wales, is shown in white. So some of the key ingredients we really had to set out from the start. We needed a standardized, robust construction detail approach. We needed to target an enhanced performance better than regulations by about at least 5 decibels. We needed the whole industry approach, raising skills, design, and knowledge. Anything that was going to be built using a robust detail in the future would require to be registered so we could track it. We wanted to explain the key junction details, coming back to the points raised in the 2 previous presentations by Per and Ross and Jelle, the importance of key junction details. And also, we didn't want just checklists, we wanted checklists that were really functional, that could get the message over about the key questions. And what we tend to find is the checklist will generally have no more than 10 to 12 questions, typically 10, which are the critical ones, and then a traffic light system for monitoring for our site inspectors that go out to check. And that strong liaison with local control building authorities, the municipalities, was very important also. And then as innovations come forward, we then have a chance to update the handbook, etc. So if someone is developing a robust detail, then we will split it into 3 stages. The first stage A, they are required to submit 8 tests, and it has a robustness assessment by the Robust Detail Standards Committee, looking at key junctions, key details, building on the knowledge we have from an existing database. Stage B is 22 tests, and generally that will then provide you your 30 tests, and once it's gone through a robustness assessment, if it's achieved all the requirements and performance, if we've tightened up the robustness about some of the construction issues, should we have any concerns, then it enters the Stage C handbook. And then, as we say, it's out into the wild, it's out into the jungle, and anything from 100 to maybe 20, 50,000 of these may be built over any 1 or 2 year period. So it's very important we get it right. In terms of registration and tracking for the system, the government allowed the whole system to go live in 2004 once we'd submitted the data, and they were very keen that we could track and form a national database. And so Robust Details was formed, which was a mechanism by a company that would allow registrations of any sites. It would set up a national database, it would provide a technical support, and it would operate the 30 RD Robust Detail inspectors. So the application, we start in the bottom right of this diagram. The application comes in for a new robust detail or new type of construction. It's assessed. If it's not approved, it's withdrawn or amended. If it is approved and it's achieved its 30 tests and it's complied with all our robustness measures, it's then published in the handbook and also online. This then allows people to register to use that construction, and then it fits into the performance monitoring. And I'll just come to that shortly about how that operates. Some examples of key junction details. This is a timber frame separating floor. We show key junction details with external walls, separating walls, show key elements about specific aspects we want to have treated, and key guidance. And typically a robust detail will have anything from 6, maybe up to 10 pages of information about key junction details and specifications. But no matter the robust detail, they all have a checklist. And certainly in the United Kingdom, the local authority building control, if they are on site, or the warranty or insurance providers when they visit, they ask to see the checklist and that it's being completed. And in addition to that, once completed and signed by the site manager of overseeing the works, they then sign what's effective as a completion certificate to say and declare that they have built in accordance with the robust detail. So a bit about the journey. The builder would select from the robust detail handbook the design of within their building they want to use, and then they would register. And once they register, that enters step 1 of the robust detail process, which places that site or your site in the national database. It then leads to, once you've provided your RD registration document to your local authority building control department, they know that you're registered, and the robust details on their side, step 2, will issue every 3 months to their local area robust detail inspectors a complete list of all sites which are being built in that area and which robust detail code, timber, steel, concrete, and exactly which construction system is being built or registered. The house builder has to, step 4, build in accordance with the robust detail designs, and the robust detail inspectors may visit the site at any time. They are not required to give any warning to the site, and they're allowed to visually check, and where there are some completed dwellings, they can undertake sample testing. If there is a refusal of the robust detail inspector to enter the site by the site manager, the local authority building control can be notified, and the registration of robust details from that site can be withdrawn, and as a result, that site would move to mandatory pre-completion sound insulation testing on site, and they would have to go through all the various percentages and qualifiers for testing that are required. Just to jump back, apologies, on step 4, the RD inspectors then submit all their site inspection test reports data and visual inspections to reports quarterly to the standards committee, and that then creates a loop of information and knowledge that's feeding back. So there are 30 RD acoustic inspectors roughly across the country. They're regionally located. They inspect, as mentioned before, without any prior notice. They build as built. They were expecting, the house builders to build as built under the microscope, which is the phrase that we use, that yes, you will be inspected, or you could be inspected, you may be inspected, but we're not telling you when we're coming. And also that we're looking to see the devil in the detail, that it has been done correctly. And I have to say that the vast majority of sites, the work has become exemplary, and it's really delightful to see. So we are required to do visual inspections on 1% of everything that is built. Now, in general effect, most site inspectors will generally be going through 6 or 7% of all plots which are registered during that visual inspection, because they look at the key stages that are going on in the build. And also we are required to sample sound test at least 2% of the types of robust details annually. But what we often do is, where we see we want to do more sampling in a particular area, we can do that, and that is steered by the Robust Detail Inspectorate Chairman and the Robust Detail Standards Committee. And so far in the last 10 years, the National Robust Detail Database has 6,500 visual inspections and over 17,000 sound insulation site tests which feed into the database. A bit about the traffic light system. Generally we use green, amber, red. When the Robust Detail Inspector has visited the site, if all is okay, it's marked as green. If there are any deviations, which is regarded as amber, the builder is notified and has 28 days to correct. If the builder does not make those changes, then the site moves to red. And if the site moves to red, then the site is withdrawn from the robust details process, and the local authority building control are notified, and then they would undertake or send or instruct the site that they have to undertake sound insulation testing. When the RD inspectors are on site and they discover a major deviation, which in other words something has been built which is completely not in accordance with the robust detail, is very difficult to change or alter and could not be classified as amber, then it's classified as red. The site or homes which are registered are no longer registered with robust details, they're not compliant, and so compulsory testing is then required to meet the local authority building control requirements. Typically, some of the amber visits, particularly on some of the new innovative systems, might be 8 to 10%, so there's a chance to correct. Generally, on most sites now, across the whole population of robust detail sites across the country, between 1 and 2% are red. And even when they're red, they may still pass the regulations, but the RD inspector is not happy with something and as such may give red. The RD inspector will complete a standardized report. This also helps with the data capture. And the one thing I would strongly emphasize is the visits from the robust detail inspectors to sites has been very powerful for knowledge transfer to site managers, site workmanship, and developing and improving site skills and improving the build. So in terms of robust details, which operates across England, Wales and Scotland, and also some people do register in Northern Ireland, there's been a real stronger emphasis on what is to be built and do it correctly. A site will pay £33 per home to register in the scheme, per house. They register and build in accordance with the specifications, and the site manager must give access to the inspector. The benefits and impacts of the robust details approach so far, well, there's been a fourfold decrease in noise complaints nationally. Between 12 and 17,000 car journeys have been removed each year if we compare that if we only had to do mandatory testing. There's been a huge upskilling of the sector and it's been enhanced. Current noise complaints on robust detail properties are less than 0.01%, and in terms of some of the constructions, it's a ratio of 1 in 5,000 to 1 in 10,000 homes where we have noise complaints registered. The impact of using the RD approach taken further forward, this coming year, the 1 millionth home will be built using the robust details process. The regulation compliance rates changed from previously, as you saw, before the robust details approach, we had a 40% compliance rates for floors, 60% for walls. Within 3 years of the handbook being issued and sites being registered, we moved to 97% compliance, and now it's at 99%, so there's constant been refining and improvement to what we try to do. It was recognized because of the impact on innovation, sustainable housing and quality of life, and the university was awarded the Queen's Anniversary Prize in 2009. When the first handbook came out, we had 13 construction details for walls and floors. We now have over 60 wall and floor construction systems. Many of them are proprietary and innovative, and it now allows for over 500 combinations of different walls and floors for apartments. And we're now in the 4th edition of the handbook, which is free to download. In terms of the continuation and leading up to the last slides today, the RD Standards Committee meets still quarterly and progresses and receives new innovative constructions, monitors the existing constructions, and reports across the industry the progress. They have the ability to amend or increase the robustness of a robust detail construction as they track the monitoring. They also have the ability to withdraw a robust detail if they're not happy with the workmanship or construction and the continuation of that, how that's performing. Importantly, it does encourage innovation. We can track trends via the national database, the activities and construction methods, and they can also increase the percentage of testing or inspection if they're concerned about any specific aspect. So in relation to, whilst I would much rather probably have shown you many of the site inspections, monitoring reports and other things today, I think the actual process of how it came about and some of the findings and some of the changes and the handbook may be very useful to a thermal or energy approach. We've also provided some useful links. There was a paper written in 2006 about the development of robust details, and there's a link there. The Robust Details website has further information, and also the national database that Robust Details holds, which is one of the most in-depth databases, allows a huge range of research to be undertaken and has been undertaken over the years. And one of the most recent papers was looking at low frequencies, which was recently published. So thank you very much to everyone for listening, and happy to answer questions during the Q&A session.